When you're aware of thoughts, the thoughts are forms. It's something that has a form that you can look at, you can see. It's not you, you're aware of it. However, at some point, it's possible to notice awareness such that that awareness that was aware of the thoughts is aware of itself. And that's different than being aware of anything else, right? Because, and that's one of the reasons that this is a little, that this whole process is challenging, because the difference between being aware of anything else compared to being aware of awareness itself is that when you're aware of awareness itself, you are that which you are aware of. That's the difference. When you're aware of anything else, you're not that which you're aware of. When you are aware of awareness itself, you are that which you are aware of. So it's different. It's not like you're looking. It's more like you're being what you're aware of. You're being what you're aware of. And so to know awareness in terms of being aware of awareness, rather than look for it, you pay attention to, you give attention to that which is looking. It's like that quote from Saint Francis of Assisi, that what you're looking for is what's looking. So you have to. So in order to be aware of awareness, you're not looking for it, but rather you're being it, since it's what you are. You could talk about it in terms of that at some point when you're focusing your attention. I think this is the way Muji was talking about it in that conversation. At some point when you're focusing your attention, it becomes available to you to notice what's attending. When you're focusing your attention, what's attending? And this is the challenge really with self-realization. The challenge with self-realization is that it's the one thing, it is the one aspect of the human experience that is different than every other aspect of human experience. Because given that you are it, you can't see it, and you could even say that you can't be it, and when I say you can't be it, I mean you, and this is another place that people get stuck. You can't be it if what you mean by you is the person. Okay? The person can't be it. A lot of people, they attempt to understand or look or see awareness, and they talk about it in terms of I am aware. That's a habit that has to be broken. No, the I that you say is aware upon inquiry, by looking to see where is this I that's aware. If you really look, you will see that you can't find it. You can't find it, and that's because it doesn't actually exist, other than it's an identity that got put together in order for you to function in time and in this world. But other than that, I mean, that's why in the world we have all these ways of determining your identification, right? They came out with recently, they have real ID now. You familiar with that? So the ID you used to have isn't real anymore. Real ID. Well, what's that? What's real ID? It used to be your driver's license was your ID. No more. Your driver's license is not your ID. So it's not sufficient, right? Why? Because you didn't have to prove who you were when you got your driver's license. They just took it for granted. They just accepted that you were who you said you were. But real ID, you have to have a birth certificate or a passport. In order to get a passport, you have to have a birth certificate. So you have to prove you exist. It's funny in a way, you have to prove you exist by having a piece of paper that says your name on it, the day you came out of your mother's womb, and there you are. That proves you're real. That's real ID. Well, you see, in the world that we live in, it's a world that is being operated from a mental idea. It's a world that's being operated from a mental idea, and that's where you end up with mental ideas. That, how do you prove you exist? Well, you have to have a birth certificate. Well, does that prove you exist? No, that proved that a body came out of your mother's womb and started breathing. See, that proves that a body came out of your mother's womb and started breathing. But does that prove that you exist? Is that who you are? Well, for practical purposes, for the sake of the world we live in, that's sufficient, because in the world we live in, we take it that you are the body that was born. And so if you can prove that you're that body that was born, we'll accept that. We'll say that you exist, just for practical reasons, right? But what we're talking about here is, now we're talking about taking another look, right? And this time, you're not looking for proof out there in the world that you exist. Now you're looking for proof in the other direction that you exist, as awareness. It's an interesting thing when you consider that almost all of humanity is operating in the world as if they are something that they're not. It's kind of like it's not hard to understand that when you put a mask on at Halloween that you're not the character of the mask. That's not hard at all, right? Well, what's any different than the character that you're playing in your life? It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is that the character that we're playing in our lives, we consider the mask to be who we actually are, instead of something that a persona that we're using in order to be distinct in the world, in order to operate in time and operate in society and operate with other people. But if you want to experience what's possible, that's the attraction. If you want to experience what's possible, which is that you can be at ease in your own skin, that you can be comfortable in life, that you can be at peace in life, then you have to recognize that you're something other than the character that's neurotic. The character is neurotic. Personality is neurotic. It has to be neurotic. You know why it has to be neurotic? Because you have to keep pretending that's what you are. That's neurotic. You have to keep pretending that's what you are. It's a pretense. If you look up the word pretense, it means acting as if something is true. It's pretending, right? Acting as if something is true. Right? So everybody's going around acting as if they're who they are as their body, acting as if who they are as their personality, and then it extends itself beyond that. You can identify with your money, acting as if you're your money, acting as if you're your partner, and then, if you listen to people talk, especially people who are identified with their money, what they will tell you is what they're worth. What they're worth, not what the money's worth, what they're worth, what I'm worth. I'm very rich. You see, it's not like I have a lot of money. No, I am the money. That's why when the Great Depression came, people jumped out of windows, right? Because if I don't have the money anymore, then there's nothing, there's no life. You can't find who you are. You can't see who you are. All you can do when you're meditating and there's much less distraction, right? It becomes more possible for you to simply notice that there's awareness. And to notice that the awareness that you're noticing is aware of itself. It's aware of itself. The key to this thing is you have to keep coming back to the fact that it's already the case. There's nothing, I spent a lot of time on this in this class in the past. In order for you to realize who you are, in order for you to be what you already are, it's literally true that there is nothing that needs to be done. Nothing has to happen. Nothing has to change. It's already the case. So one way to look at it then is to say, well, if it's already the case, then all of my attempts to see it and be it are just a waste of energy. All my attempts to see it or be it is just a waste of energy. Well, what are those attempts to see it and be it? They're thought processes, aren't they? Yeah. So maybe what you need to do in order to make it a little easier for you to experience the truth of what you are is to stop paying attention to thinking as a way of getting anywhere. You know, the thoughts are not going to take you there. Being is not thinking. Give up the, you know, one of the things Papa G used to say is give up the search. Stop searching. Stop trying. You know, if you're trying to see who you are, trying to be who you are, if you're searching for the true you and so forth, that never goes anywhere. It can't go anywhere because it's a done deal. It's already happened. It's already happened. So a way to say this is instead of trying to be who you are, searching for it, see if you can just relax and notice what's already here. What's already here. Just sit. Just sit and be aware. See, and this is one of the reasons that I like Zen. I think because in Zen, they keep coming back to, look, just sit and be aware. Because the more we talk, the easier it is for us to get lost, right? Because the concepts are not the reality. You know, I mean, some people find them helpful because you can point at things that people can look at. But if you just sit and be aware, I suspect that eventually it'll dawn on you that you're the awareness that's sitting there. You see what I'm saying? You're focusing on the breath to stabilize your ability to pay attention. That's what you're doing with the breath. You're focusing on the breath to stabilize your ability to pay attention because under normal conditions, your attention is all over the place. That's the problem. But that's not the end goal. That's why I'm saying, you know, we're not doing just a basic mindfulness practice anymore. You start by paying attention to your breath for a little while, and then you stay aware of your breath, but then allow yourself to notice everything, be aware of everything that's happening. Without judging or evaluating, without trying to figure anything out, just notice. Just notice everything that's happening. And at some point, it will become possible. It will get revealed to you that when you're just noticing what's happening, right, that's the awareness that is detached from what's happening. It's the awareness that has no judgments or evaluations. It simply is. It just is. That's what makes it so obscure sometimes, you know, that it's always here. Right? It's always here, but you're so used to maintaining this ongoing idea about yourself. That's like what you're involved with all the time. So even though the awareness is always here, you're not used to noticing it at all. You're used to ignoring it. That's what ignorance is. Right? Ignoring the awareness that you are is the default state for humanity. Ignoring the awareness that you are is the default state for humanity. That's why we're talking about paying attention, right? So you're not ignoring things now, you're paying attention, and then you got to relax and let yourself notice instead of trying to notice or trying to figure it out or trying to understand it or trying to do anything. The key here is this is something that's already true, it's already the case, and when you stop trying to do anything, which is very consistent with the practice of Zen meditation, you just sit there and be aware. I can't imagine that if you practice this meditation with a real commitment and sincerity, right, this form of meditation where you're just sitting there being aware, I can't imagine how you could miss who you are. How could you miss it? You know, for a while you may be, you know, you may keep going into these mental states and emotional states and so forth. But the thing that remains the same through all of that, that doesn't change, is the awareness. And that's why I say I can't imagine that at some point you wouldn't notice. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the thing that's always the same. Isn't it? Yeah. The thoughts change, the feelings change, the circumstances change, everything's changing, but something is always the same. That's what you want to notice. What's always the same, what's never changing. It's like the space in this room. The space in this room never changes. What happens in the room is always changing, but the space never changes. Part of what happens if you practice meditation over time is you understand that you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to take responsibility for who you're being and how you're showing up in relationship to other people. Right? And so if you're in a situation like that, you have to take responsibility for the fact that how the hell are they supposed to understand what's going on?